Robert Plank Show, episode 263. End Destination Thinking. Enjoy the process and complete daily goals with motivational speaker Todd Lemense. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. And let's welcome back our very first return guest ever on the show. A few hundred interviews, very first guy to come back because he's just that good, Mr. Todd Lemense, motivational speaker. How are things today, Mr. Todd?
Rob, everything's great. How are you?
Super fantastic, better than ever, can't complain. And so, last time that we talked, you had a bunch of cool stuff to share with us, but then at the end we kind of ran out of time and you said that you had even better stuff, such as destination thinking. So can you kind of tell us maybe about this destination thinking and maybe even what you've been up to the last few months and stuff like that?
Absolutely. On destination thinking, us as humans, we're instilled with thinking that some life event's going to happen. And I'll give you an example. Graduating from college, getting a dream job, having a new baby, new parents, getting married. And so what happens is, let's just take the one having a baby. What happens when a baby's on the way? What you have a baby shower. And you get lots of gifts. You get clothes that the kid outgrows in 2 days, and you get diapers. Well, when the baby's born, that's when it's time to do the labor. That's when the work starts. And anyone who's been a parent knows that parenting is a lot of work and it's a little bit of love. And the same thing with getting married. People will, 99.9% of the population will spend more time planning the wedding and the honeymoon. And then after that's over, that's when the work starts. And relationships at work are a lot of work. So we got to think that, once you graduate from college and get your dream job, well, that's when it's time to earn the high salary that you get. That's when it's time to do a lot of work because high salaries come with, of course, high expectations.
Interesting. So I mean, what's sort of the what's the takeaway from that? Is it that everyone's only looking at like the one big day, the one big payoff, and there's more to it, or sort of is that like that way that people normally think about those events? Is that incorrect? Is there a better way? What's the way that we should be feeling about all that?
I think we just got to concentrate on processes. It's I used to think that once I made a certain amount of money, I would just be happy and I would just have no more problems. Or if I met somebody special, but life isn't static. It keeps moving. So we have to kind of get, kind of like exercising. You have to get that muscle memory of this is going to be a marathon, not just a short sprint.
I got you. So people need to maybe enjoy the process more and stop hoping for like that one big day where everything's going to change, or that better job or that better partner, and that's suddenly going to change everything. When in fact, people sort of take you with you, right?
Absolutely. We see this in relationships. When it's a new relationship, you're present and you're passionate. You put the other person first. You give that person lots of attention. Well, what happens over time? Less and less attention to that person, and less. And then what happens? The relationship will start to deteriorate because you're not being present and passionate anymore. And you wonder why it doesn't work the way it used to. It's because we're not putting the time in like we used to.
So with all that kind of stuff where, we need to, do that daily effort and stuff like that, how do we sort of prevent ourselves from getting tired or getting bored from kind of, doing the work every single day, so to speak?
I think that humans, we run a lot of is fear and hope. We have to have expectations, and we have to have daily goals on every part of our life, and that's spiritual, health, financial, everything we're doing. And with me, it's important just to be busy, because when I'm not busy, I sit around and I feel sorry for myself. And so I think life is short, and to just do as much as you can while you can. It's never going to get easier than it is right now. We always think that down the road, 5 years from now, I'm going to have more money. Well, I say, or more resources. Well, if I haven't saved any money in the last 15 years, what makes me think I'm going to do it in the next 15 months?
Right. Well, cool. So people need to be sort of maybe more aware of those expectations and those daily goals and like the spiritual and the health and financial stuff. And sort of along those terms, you're mentioning like those kinds of areas people maybe need to do better or be more aware. So is there like a checklist or some kind of like, do you yourself like go through those sorts of categories, or like how do we even know like what needs help there? How do we take that inventory?
It's a great question. What I usually do when it comes to inventory is I look at a lot of times when I go and speak to groups and talk to high achievers, one of the things they always say, and it makes me almost scream, is they say, well, I don't have that problem. Or, yeah, that's not me. I got that handled. And that's destination thinking in itself. I like to look at it like if you're already good in an area, I look at it like an education, kindergarten through high school. If you're already naturally inclined for certain things, then you should hold yourself to a higher standard on those. If you're in high school on certain subjects, you should be in college. You should graduate from Harvard. And then vice versa. If there's things, for me, it was emotional maturity. I'm a very emotional person, and sometimes it's gotten the best of me in my dealings with people. I can be kind of, have a bad temper or get angry easily. So I'm in the third grade on that. So that's something I have to at least to get competent. I want to get into middle school or high school at least. I might not go to Harvard, but better than I am right now.
And that's a pretty good way of thinking about it. And I've kind of realized that I've done that myself without realizing it, that like sort of there's all these areas where I just need to like kind of study or be more aware, or even to the point where sometimes, especially as like a work at home entrepreneur, like there'll be some days when I'm just not motivated or days where I'm super stressed out, and I've noticed that like if I sort of study that problem that I have, and I realize, number one, that other people kind of have that same problem as me, and then number two, I can over time kind of sort of sort out all those raw emotions into like words and phrases and sentences, and then I can kind of then look up sort of the antidote, I guess, or like the comeback phrase for that. And I mean, do you kind of experience something sort of similar where like just that sort of converting all those raw thoughts and emotions into words helps?
It does. I write 500 words every day, and they're all self-help. I think self-help 24/7, and so when I run across something that happens, I think it's really hard when when something bothers you is when it's true. If someone insults you and it's not true, it doesn't bother you. It's when something's sensitive that you're sensitive about or that you're insecure about, and someone touches on that, it hurts your feelings. And so I'm ultra sensitive to other people's feelings. I had an experience. I'm working on a speech, and when I do a speech, I practice at the gym. There's the aerobics room, and there's mirrors all around. So there's a lot of time there's people in there listening. And I had experience, a young woman who just graduated from, she got a secondary degree in forensic science, and she got her dream job. And she said the speech I was talking about, the destination thing, happened to her because she gets this dream job and none of it is what she thought it was going to be. It's paying half as much as she thought. They're not treating her with respect. They're not giving her the resources she wanted. And she feels really, I guess to say, desperate. Like I made this life decision and made this commitment and it hasn't worked out. And I know exactly how she feels, because a lot of times you arrive at these big goals and dreams and you're like, is this it? I can't believe I did all this work and I'm totally miserable. So I think people have to keep moving and keep thinking that there's more. I think with destination thinking, you can really put yourself in, limit your options for happiness in life.
And then in that sort of destination thinking, how do we keep ourselves from, like, if there's always more, if we know, like, okay, well, I'm not just going to stop when I, hit the first, big milestone. How do we keep doing more, but at some point be happy? Like how do we avoid that whole trap of just wanting more and more and never being happy?
I think enjoying what you said earlier, enjoying the little victories. We don't have to, to win the Super Bowl to be a good football player. You're winning every game, and just enjoy the practices and every part of it. I try to, for my own life, I think the quality of our lives is the quality of our relationships. And I try to enjoy everybody for the way they are right now. And I don't plan on them changing. And when you focus, if you get outside of yourself and put your focus on that, focus on team, focus on group, focus on winning, as opposed to focus on Robert and focus on Todd, that seems to be a lot healthier way to live, I think.
Okay, so enjoy people for the way they are right now, and I totally get that, and then it sort of makes me think of, like, the other day I was kind of thinking that, like, any of us, if we think back, like 10 to 15 years, we think about, like, the old, apartment we lived in, the old car, the old people we were around. I mean, I know that I would give a ton just to be able to sort of relive that, just to kind of go back for a second and just kind of see my old place, see my old stuff. And then I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, that's right now. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'm going to be looking back at today, being like, man, like those were the good old days in a sense. And so it's like kind of blew my own mind for a second there, as far as like that whole like appreciating everything that's around you. And so you mentioned a few minutes ago that you do a lot of self-help stuff. You write a lot of self-help stuff. There's like self-help in your head all the time. Do you ever sort of get like self-helped out, or get just like too much of the jargon kind of crammed in your head and stuff like that?
What I do is I get upset with myself with the I know better than this. So you don't always have good days, and I'm not always positive, and then you get that kind of feeling like you should be above this by now, and I've come to the realization that I'm going to be battling my demons for the rest of my life. It's not going to be something I'm just going to overcome, and that's going to be it. I've come to in this country, we're number one for the last 20 years in two things: the sale of recreational drugs and the sale of antidepressants. Americans, we feel like we should be happy all the time. and what that's doing is setting us up for unrealistic expectations. So we're bound to be not happy all the time. So we have to accept that, not every day is going to be a good day.
Fair enough. And sort of good to manage those expectations going in. And so, you do a lot of motivational speaking and stuff like that. And I'm sure that you've got like some really good stories, some really good like sort of go-to stories that you use a lot, that kind of give us a good message and help us out. So do you have anything like that in your arsenal?
I do. One of the ones I like to share about is managers and who like to complain about people babysitting people, or if people would just do their job. They get this kind of sarcastic tone. And I've been here 20 years, and if people would just do their job, and I always stop them right there and say, well, if you've been here 20 years, you should know 20 people that you've either worked with or you could call up and recruit to the company. And they just kind of stare at me, and I say, well, if you don't know 20 is a lot. You must at least know two. And then I tell them about babysitting. I said, I have two of my favorite celebrities. One is Grammy-winning, American Idol-winning Carrie Underwood, the country singer. And the other one is the 5-time Super Bowl champion, Tom Brady. And Carrie Underwood has a singing coach that she works with every day. And Tom Brady has a quarterback coach that he works with every day. So do you think that Carrie Underwood's coach, her vocal coach on the way to the studio says, what's going on with Carrie? She's been singing since she's in the church choir. She won American Idol. She's recorded hundreds, thousands of songs. She doesn't know how to sing yet. And the same with Tom Brady's quarterback coach. Does he drive into the facility? Does he say, what's wrong with Tom? His dad taught him how to throw a football. He went to Michigan and played in the Rose Bowl. He still doesn't know how to play football. And then on the flip side, do you think Tom Brady and Carrie Underwood says, I don't need someone micromanaging me, telling me what to do. I'm the rich, famous one. Of course they don't. They work as hard as they can. They surround themselves with the absolute best people they can. They pay them with their own money, and they listen to every word they say because they want to get 1% better. They'll do whatever it takes. And because they're at such a high level, they'll do whatever it takes just to stay at the same level they're already at. So that's one of my go-to stories.
Awesome. And there's so much good stuff in there. Just that, if it's good enough for Carrie Underwood and Tom Brady, and probably like every successful athlete, every successful musician you've heard of has had has tons of coaches at the same time. And I imagine that, I'm not like a huge, sports person, but I used to play, like Little League baseball, and a lot of the times when we would do like practice and stuff, it was just like fundamentals, just, catch fly balls, like hit grounders, and just like all the simple stuff over and over, because it's like, as soon as we think we have a handle on that, or as soon as we want to move on to other stuff, if we're not careful, we kind of lose track of those basics. So that's super freaking awesome that all these super, like the top people in the world, not only are they know that they're not too good for a coach, like everyone still needs a coach, but like you said, even just to get 1% better, or even just to stay at that level is totally worth it for them. So good stuff.
Well, we think about that in the corporate, in work, we think, oh, I'm the boss. I know it all. I've been that person. And that's just not true. The best bosses and the best leaders are looking to get better, and like you said, maybe not even get better, but go back to, I think there's more value in going back and doing the basics that got us promoted, that got us where we are, because that's what really our strengths are. Sometimes we take on a new persona because now we're in charge. But the reason we got promoted was because we outworked everybody, and we did the basics so well.
Right. And it's almost like for some people maybe we were young and hungry and motivated 10 years ago, and maybe some people got to maybe like rose to a level of their incompetence and kind of got to a certain position and kind of got fat and happy. Maybe need to go back and look at their older stuff. And I think that like for me as like a internet marketing person, like the other day I had to redo some videos, like some videos for membership site, had to go and like convert them and upload them again, and like I happened to play a couple of them, and this was like stuff from like 6 or 7 years ago, and I was thinking like, whoa, like this sounds like different. Like this whole time I thought that I was more or less the same person I was even 5, 6, 7 years ago. But even listening to this kind of slightly older stuff, I'm like, whoa, maybe I should listen to a little bit of this and maybe even see if see how I've changed. If was that change good or bad? Did I like forget a few things? Is that worth kind of revisiting? So yeah, I mean, even just kind of going back to some of that older stuff and maybe seeing what was my frame of mind, what was my work ethic, how did I behave and act back then? I mean, huge.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's a good way of doing it because you have a way of measuring it. Sometimes we think we're always better now because we're older and wiser, but that's not always the case. Sometimes our energy, enthusiasm that we used to have, that we've let negativity beat out of us, and we think we know better. A lot of times when we're talking to people, we don't represent ourselves as well as we could because we kind of think being the leading actor and actresses in our own life, we think everyone's been following us full time, and they're not. They're living their own movie. So a lot of times we have to get back to communicate a little bit better.
Awesome, and to sort of get a better handle on that story, because I mean you're so right. It's like we've been with ourselves every waking moment, but then other people might have only kind of seen what we're doing here and there, or maybe haven't heard from us in a couple of years, and so we don't know what someone else's story of us is for sure.
Absolutely. And anytime you made a good point about why someone's successful. There's no one in the world, anytime I talk to any successful people and they start talking about how tough they've had it and how they got successful, well, I found that successful people are very poor self-evaluators. And so they'll go into a thing about, how tough it was, uphill both ways. And I always stop them and say, well, tell me about the breaks and people that have helped you too, because that's as much of the story as just the hard times.
Right.
And everybody, like you said, Rob, every single person who's successful has had a lot of people help them and a lot of breaks. And they've made a lot of their own breaks, but they still have been there. So you have to appreciate those too. You have to surround yourself with the right people, and you have to be thankful, and you have to be grateful.
Right. And like, what's that saying? You probably know that saying, like, isn't there like there's like three types of people, like the ones that like helped you out of the hole, or the ones that like put you in the hole, or like there's something like that. Like there's like those categories of the people in your life, and it's like and yeah, good reminder for all of us to kind of remember those people who helped us out as well.
And don't forget those people that have hurt you, that have made us in so much pain that we said, you know what? The people that have fired, I am most thankful for people who have fired me from jobs because I needed to get fired, and I went on to bigger and better things. And I am thankful for the people who have left me in relationships or treated me badly because it's making me appreciate people who treat me well. So not everything that happens to us that's bad is really bad. It's in our best interest.
Right. That's good perspective. So just to kind of recap as we're starting to wind down, and I want to make sure that we talk about you and what you've been doing lately. But so just to kind of recap this destination thinking. So basically, people always kind of have this tendency to look at these life events, having a baby, getting married, and they kind of so what's the problem there exactly? So just so we can recap. So they have this life event coming up, and the problem is what exactly?
That they don't realize that it's a process. Another thing with like the new baby being born and this and that, people think as the kid gets older it's going to get easier. They think, once the child's walking it's going to get easier. Or once the child's in school, or once the kid's driving. Well, everyone knows it doesn't get easier; it just gets different. So we have to keep in mind to be possible what we talked about earlier, enjoying the journey. Keeping everything in perspective that we're in a long, and we're going to enjoy more of it, not just events, not just graduations.
Awesome. So the answer is enjoy every day, not just the one event that's coming up that's going to be there and gone before you know it, and And it sounds like we should also be avoiding that if only blank would happen, then only I'd be happy. So awesome stuff. So destination thinking, good thing for people to be aware of and have that solution for. And just so that everyone knows what you're up to as far as like the speaking and everything else, what's been going on with you?
I've been very busy. I'm doing 2 radio shows a day. I did over 60 speaking gigs this year, so next year I want to do twice that many.
Awesome. So to make sure that you hit that goal and exceed it, where should people go to find out about you? Like, should people go to find out about you to like hire you for their event, or like who should go and check out Mr. Todd, and where should they go to do that?
Just follow me on Twitter. I have over 200,000 followers on Twitter, and I'm very active on there. And if you reach out to me, I'll always respond back to you.
Awesome. And what's that Twitter username?
It's Todd _, and my last name is Lemense.
All right, good stuff. So everyone should go to Twitter and check out Todd _Lemense, Todd Lemense. And thanks so much, Todd, for sharing some of that wisdom and getting all of us entrepreneurs back on track to where we want to be. So I appreciate you stopping by the show today.
Thanks for having me on, Robert. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Right back at you. Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at robertplank.com/iTunes and like us on Facebook at robertplankshow.com.